Welcome to Midwest Fantasy Week number 6. Joining us again this week, we got Ricky back.
Hi.
Hi, indeed. All right, this is not the right matchup. First matchup this week is high score Tom's always the McBridesmaid, not the bridesmaid for once. 150.5 points over Brandon's blown call with 95.2 points. What do you think?
Well, Tom actually had a perfect managerial week. He played everybody he should have played to get the top score, and he needed it because I think he got top score by maybe a point. Dunzan bench with 6 points, and that's about it. And he wouldn't have made a difference being put in. Boy, I can't read my own writing right now. Anyway, he was also Tom's team was led by Derrick Henry, 28.2 points, who was actually over his projection. So that was awesome. An honorable mention for his team would be Terry McLaurin with 23 points. And Jake Bates with 20 points. The kicker with 20 points. He had 154 field goal yards and I think 5 point after.
Yeah, it turns out Detroit whomped the shit out of Dallas.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that one more later. Foreshadowing. Okay, how about for Brandon? Anything notable over there?
Brandon was led by Bijan Robinson with 25.5 points. Unfortunately, he had Allgaier with 22 points and Davis with 21 points on his bench. Jerry Jeudy and Travis Etienne underperformed for him. Travis Etienne did have a hamstring.
Yeah, he got hurt
the
in
game,
this one.
so
He did not
play
much.
But probably Brandon had the most painful thing happen to him this week. You know how we've been ripping on Mark Andrews? Yeah. That's why I was laughing.
There we go. First touchdown of the year, and he's sitting on the bench.
Yeah, 15.6 points, which wouldn't have made a difference, but still kind of sad at the same time.
Yeah, I heard her laughing on the patio. I'm like, what are you laughing about? Oh, well, there you go. Turns out it was that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he did have a lot of players on his bench with a lot of points, but it wouldn't have mattered in the end. I think it would have been close, but I still don't think it would have been quite enough. So
it'll be interesting to see what happens with Jerry Jeudy. So after the trade news today where Amari Cooper was traded to Buffalo, the number one wide receiver for Cleveland now is Jerry Jeudy. So your wide receiver here had an upgrade, maybe downgrade. Over on the other side, there's the Amari Cooper owner. Last week he only had 8.2 points, but now he's over in Buffalo. So should be interesting to see what happens with him moving forward. All right. Anything else on this one?
No. It's top scorer and
the corpse of Gabe Davis scored this week.
Yes, he did.
9, 2, 3, 0, or 0.8, 4, and 21 with 2 touchdowns. That's such a Gabe Davis line. Like, he's such a boom or bust every time. Like, he's so frustrating to own. Really glad I didn't have him this year. I could have used him this week, but I'm glad I didn't have him this year. So, all right. So that was our top scorer and our biggest blowout. The next one is the closest game, which it was about an 11-point margin. Aaron's cousin sub Hertz Donut put up 129.8, taking out Eric's Wood with 118.7. So that's 11.2 points or so.
Yeah, Aaron's team was led this week by Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers' new BF4F4 now, I guess, with 24.9 points. Although I wrote this is the first one of the first matchups I looked at. Everybody had a good week if Aaron Rodgers was throwing to them. So, anyway, was hurt by Chris Olave getting a concussion with a negative 0.5 points. Good thing Keenan Allen on your bench looks so good so you could play him next week. Oh, he's on bye next week.
No. Yeah.
So, yeah, he had a lot of points. I think it was
21.
Yeah. And also the New Orleans defense had a solid week. Yeah, they allowed a lot of points, but they had 3 interceptions, one touchdown return for 10.62 points. So, Aaron's team, very, very solid week. And actually, quite honestly, Eric had a very solid week as well. It's just, sometimes it'd be like that.
Yeah, 129 and 118. Losing with 118 sucks, but it does happen from time to time.
Yep.
Tom can tell you all about it. He's been bitching about his season the whole time. See, now aren't you happy? As Tom said, actually, when he messaged me on Sunday night and I looked at his score, he's like 150 points. He's like, I'm the best 2-4 team around. That's the way it goes some days. I didn't notice, we were talking about, Keenan Allen's on bye. I'm like, well, he's got Ricky Pearsall. He might be finally starting to come back. I guess his return window open, and they do have him projected for 4 points next week, which is, not bad after getting shot this season. So, yeah, who knows? Otherwise, what is it? Or Hollywood Brown, he might be, he's still on IR. I don't know what his return timeline looks like coming back. Yeah. So, and interesting, Eric decided not to play Romeo Dobbs coming out of his first game out of the suspension. You knew that the Packers would want to feed to him and opted not to start him. So.
Yeah, if he would have made the homer play and played him, he would have won straight up. But I mean, it's rough. So. Indeed,
it is. Oh, hey, look, Brandon Narvison is NA. What, did he get cut? Yep. Well, look at that. Breaking news. Brandon Narvison cut like an hour ago.
Braden.
Braden.
He looks like a Braden. Anyway.
Either way, yeah. Turns out, did they sign a kicker? They're bringing in Brandon McManus as his replacement. All right. Big leg, so I guess we'll see how that goes.
All right.
Hang on. I got to put a claim in for Brandon McManus.
Okay, so I'll keep on talking. Joe Mixon led Eric's team. He was back from injury with 30.2 points. Zay Flowers also had his best week of the season with 25.4 points. And Scott is actually putting in a waivers claim on Brandon McManus right now. Oh, dear. Okay. All right, so everybody outbid him. I'll tell you how much he bids. He lets me see it.
I don't know who to cut. I don't really want to... I have Young Huku. I don't really want to cut him for that.
Okay,
I can't even pick him up for the memes. That's disappointing. All right, anything else on this one?
No. You stole it all, and then you freaking started making waiver claims and just, brought the podcast to a screeching halt.
I apologize. Okay, well, this one should be a good one because you can make fun of Nick for finally losing. So, the next highest scoring team, just narrowly missing out on the high score, Ethan's pretty good team with 149.9, knocking off Nick's T-Bolden Girls 131.2.
Yeah, this was a horse race, that's for sure. Ethan was led by Caleb Williams with 28.64 points. And what is groundbreaking about this is he actually benched Brock Purdy to put Williams in.
I mean, he's benched Caleb Williams. He's been starting Williams a lot more than he's been starting Purdy.
But still.
I mean, Purdy had a good game, too. 24 points. Steve Cat is very insistent on being part of the video right now.
That's because he's cold, because we have no heat.
It's not that cold, and yeah, the heat's not working great right now, but should be an easy fix at some point. It's just we got to figure out how to fix it. So It's a brand new system. I think we just have to figure out how to turn it on for the first time for winter. And it's going to be 80 degrees again this weekend. We don't really need the heat on.
Okay.
If you can just freeze to death and wear a stocking cap. All right, dude, you got to get out of here, man.
All right. So Ethan was also honorable mention. George Kittle, 22.8 points. That was his top score of the year. The only miss he had, which I would say is not a miss, it's just the fantasy gods not smiling on you. Cortland Sutton with 15.3 points outscored DJ Moore, who had 5 targets for 20 yards. That was only 6 points this week.
Over there for Ethan, yeah, his team looked real solid this week, that's for sure. I mean, they got one, if you look at 20-point games, you got 3 guys over 20 points, 1 guy 18, everybody double digits, but DJ Moore, that's a really, really good game. How about on the other side?
Nick, led by Jaden Daniels this week with 20.96 points, followed very closely by Kenneth Walker III with 20.9. One thing I did note is trying to figure out Michael Pittman. They keep on throwing around the term IR. Even Michael Pittman said it today, talking about himself. His back is bothering him that much. So
he's not even an injury designation.
I know. It's still not off the table. So they're being really secretive about it. It's just I understand why he's on the bench. He just had a good week for 12 points, and he's been pretty solid the whole time, but it's I don't know if they're going to shut him down or what, because it seems like a pretty... If you're hurting that bad, you'd think they would want to shut him down a little bit and get him healed up. Because, long-term health, but whatever.
Gotta look somebody up here. Hang on 1 second. So there's... If I'm not mistaken, there is a direct correlation here. Yeah. Yes, there is. So... Michael Pittman Jr. is a pure downfield passer. He is a guy that is excels in running really good routes and being exactly where he's supposed to be. his quarterback, when his quarterback is a starter, is Anthony Richardson, who's a mobile, just kind of wing it guy, expects you to scramble around. The first 3 weeks, 7, 5, 7, really not great games. If you look at what happened here, the first 3 games, Richardson, 3 games, and then he got hurt in the 4th game. So if you look at Richardson versus Michael Pittman pairs really, really well with Joe Flacco, who's the quarterback in Indianapolis as the backup right now, not with Anthony Richardson. So it'll be interesting to see if those two ever get on the same page or what's going on there.
All right.
Okay. Anything else on this matchup?
No, I did not have any other points.
Okay. Looks like Nick didn't have Malik Neighbors this week, still dealing with that concussion. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Khalil Shakur. He's no longer the number 1 in Buffalo. Not really that he was the number 1. I mean, he was ranked the 40th wide receiver, and he was supposed to be the number 1 wide receiver. That's not great. We'll see how he handles being a number 2 wide receiver behind Amari Cooper now. So, all right. Next matchup is Drew's D- putting up 133 points, taking out Derek's What the Hockey. Looks like he's shifting seasons already with 92.4 points.
Well, when you're 1-5, I guess football season never really started, did it? Anyway, Drew.
I'm laughing, but I'm only 3-3. I don't have a whole lot to be able to laugh about. So.
Well, maybe if you focused on one team instead of 10, you'd be better.
Could, but that's not as much fun.
Depends on how you define fun. I like winning. Anyway, Drew is led by Najee Harris this week with 23.2 points. And both of his wide receivers, Samuel and Downs, had 22 points and change. So just a great week. Burrow also had a solid week with 19.8 points. His only miss, which isn't, again, a miss, just the fantasy gods being fussy, is Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah,
I can't write. Helping out Singletary, who's a bit hurt right now with 22.7 points this week. Again, probably not somebody you're going to play every week, but he's going to be streaky. But yeah. Anyway, he had a good week. It didn't really need him. So
I mean, he was the better projection in the projected matchup over Jalen Tolbert. Tolbert got pretty close to his projection, 9.5 versus 8.3. Not too far off of that. So you ended up putting up 132 and winning by 40. Not a big deal. So.
Anyway, Derek's excuse this week can be that everybody was on bye, mainly his Williams and Hill. Like, quite honestly, what you're supposed to do. That's, kind of got burned by bye weeks this week.
Bye weeks and injury. I mean, you can have Rashad White either. Rashad White, I don't know if he actually played at all or if he just, he sat out. He didn't play at all. So we'll see what happens there if he will not play again next week or if he's going to be available. Calvin Ridley. Looks like a pretty poor performance there. Anything else?
No, that was what one of the things I was going to talk about. He was led by A.J. Brown this week with 23.6 points. And then there was just a lot of people who've been doing real well, putting up single digits. Likely, just not much you can do.
As it turns out, Mark Andrews finally scored, so that means Likely wasn't going to score. Yeah. So it seems like they have 2 really good tight ends, and it's going to be tough to figure out which one's going to have a good week on any particular week. But it is what it is. So, all right. Moving on. Lee's Cup My Balls, 131.5 points over Chris's 105 Minnesota Fanboy with 105.8. How about for Lee?
Lee was led by Garrett Wilson and, getting in on the Aaron Rodgers Renaissance party. He had 24.7 points. Justin Fields also had a great week with 23.7 points. Maybe his last as a starter. Also, he was impacted by a heavy bye week, but again, didn't matter. Still had a really great week. Also, you don't need to have all that great of a week when you're playing Chris, but anyway.
I mean, his impact of the heavy bye week was just the Kansas City Chiefs not playing. Because Kupp was in the IR, Rice was on the IR, Mahomes and Kareem Hunt not playing. And I guess James Cook didn't play either. Zach Moss didn't really do a whole lot. Darnell Mooney had 6.8 points. Not a whole lot on the bench, but could have been an improvement over Brandon Ayuk, which is weird to say, but I guess that's an option. All right, how about over on the other side for Chris?
I kid. He actually had a decent week. He was led by Jordan Love this week with 25.62 points. And the Lizard King, Alan Lazard, also part of the Aaron Rodgers party for 23.4 points.
Yeah, he had that, he caught that Hail Mary, I think, is his big play to...
He was burned this week by Marvin Harrison getting concussed. Also,
he did not play at all. Or
yeah.
no, that's right. He did. That's right.
Started,
he got concussed early in the game, so
Yep.
that's unfortunate.
And then he also was hurt by Dontavian Wicks's bum shoulder, taking him out of the game pretty early too. So, had that happened, it would have been a bit closer. But otherwise, a really solid week for him as well.
Two 25-point scoring quarterbacks this week. That's Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love. Really nice game across the board there.
Yeah, I bet you he's going to be lobbying for a 2-quarterback league. No.
I will fight it tooth and nail for that.
Can we not manage our own fantasy football team while we're recording this? We don't have to multitask.
We
everything
are
we do.
multitasking. Send Chris trade offer. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, anyway, let's move on.
Send trade proposal. There we go. All right, Chris, I just sent you a trade proposal. We'll see if that happens or not. All right. Moving on. Trent deucing in Laporta John over Scott's pocket dog. Scott and Josh's pocket dogs, 125 to 104.9.
Yeah. I'm gonna call this the current Deuce versus future Deuce Bowl. Although I do have to say, Scott and Josh had a pretty solid week. But let's talk about Trent first. He was led by Chris Godwin, who put up an amazing 38.5 points. Also, not bad for your backup quarterback, Bo Nix, with 20 points. Unfortunately, on his bench, he had Aaron Rodgers with 17 points, but who would have called that? And then Tyler Lockett with 16.5 points. But otherwise, a very solid week in the win.
Did you talk about Chris Godwin with 38 points?
Yeah, for those of us who are actually participating in this podcast, apparently.
I'm sorry. Well, you did all the prep, and I said I'm just winging it, so I'm kind of reading through the numbers and the stats and trying to pull interesting things here. Cam Akers was on a bye? How did he get negative 1 point?
He must have just got traded. Maybe you look at that.
Traded to Minnesota.
There you go.
543, okay. More breaking news. Cam Akers traded to Minnesota. Why did Cam Akers get traded to Minnesota? He was just there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know Aaron Jones is a little bit hurt. He got some sort of hip injury. Okay. It's interesting that they just traded for him again, second season. I would love to hear Tom's perspective on that trade acquisition. I'm sure I'll get a message later when I mention that. That's the first time I've ever seen that, and that caught me off guard there. So how about for Scott and Josh?
They almost had a perfect week.
They had 0.8 points from Daria Gubawale.
That was the only play they could have made better, was to take him out and put Abdul in.
They only had one guy that scored any points on the bench. So it was
it wouldn't have made
limited
any difference,
options.
but they did all right. Mixon and Pierce were back, which is why Dari didn't do anything. They were led by Jared Goff with 25.1 points, and they also had a heavy bye week, which I guess is kind of a theme when, the Super Bowl champions are on bye. So, there you go.
Super Bowl, oh yeah. The only guy on his team that's on the bye is in the IR spot. So, Miami, Minnesota, Miami, and Vegas, but I think Zamir White just didn't play. So,
okay.
All right, and finally, our last game. We could just skip this one, right?
No, because you've been trying to manage your shitty-ass team during this whole entire podcast.
All right, Will's Galactic Gibbs Gang, which I have to enunciate. 100.26 points over my Detective Pikachu, 79.2 points.
Did you get the lowest score ever?
No.
I asked that earlier.
No,
but anyway.
I did not get the lowest score ever. Not even close. Would you like me to look it up?
No, it's okay.
We can make fun of somebody else.
No, we'll make fun of you.
Okay.
Anyway, Will was led by Josh Allen with 24.4 points this week. Also, Evan Ingram with 18.2 points in his return from injury. His big miss this week was Christian Watson. He had 15.8 points, but again, I get that, you can't win them all, right?
No.
So,
I mean, he still put up 100 points. It's a pretty good day.
Absolutely.
I mean, he really only had 2 guys that could potentially have bumped his score up, and he wouldn't have gotten to a lot much more. It's interesting seeing your team and seeing like, okay, where my other teams crapped out this weekend, and Tajay Spears was definitely a guilty culprit elsewhere. All right, let me have it.
Well, I mean, seeing that my mom picking just cats in the pool would have probably beat you this week. Yeah, should have played Drake May. Who would have thought we would be saying that with Dak Prescott with 3.22 points? You were led by Devonta Smith, who had 15.4 points, and everybody else, like, single digits. Yeah. I mean, when your kicker is a highlight, like, honestly, buddy, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is one of the downsides to being heavy invested into the Dallas offense, right? I've got 3 players on Dallas, and I started them all this week, thinking that game was going to be a shootout, not a shit show for Dallas. At some point, they're going to have to figure out how the hell do they stop anybody, because they really, literally, that game, Detroit tried multiple plays for offensive linemen to score touchdowns. They were just fucking with Dallas at that point, to be like, we know you're fucking terrible. Here, figure that out. And then additionally, yeah, Dak has not looked great. He's thrown a couple of picks. He's had some turnovers. At some point, they have to figure out how to run the goddamn ball, because not getting... When everybody knows it's going to be passes all the time, is really easy to defend on it. And it's just that they've been really struggling. So hopefully they get that figured out. I didn't just send a trade offer out for a quarterback or anything, but we'll see what happens. So, because then I can cut Drake May and then keep rocking the Dak can go down to my bench. I'm sure that trade offer won't go through because nobody wants tight ends, but one may never know. So, yeah, my team it was a bad week. I just had not a lot of great options. I should have played Kincaid. Singletary was hurt. Jerome Ford got hurt, so he didn't play much this week. Injuries, and sometimes it's just going to be that way. So, in my notes that I sent you, what else did I note? There was only one claim last week on all for where there was competitive bids on a player, and it was $1 for our quarterback, or for a kicker. So, kicker or defense, I don't remember. It wasn't worth noting at all, so I didn't jot anything down on that one. Our IDP league, the overall standings, I'm still in first, Aaron's in second, Scotty B's in third, and Tom is in fourth. This past week, Scotty B had a really good week. He put up 78 points. I had 43, Aaron had 41.5, and Tom had 27. Unfortunately, I've now down one of my 6 players. I lost Aiden Hutchinson for the season, so that's going to kind of kneecap me along the way. And then, to be fair, I'm not the only one out that has to deal with IR. I mean, I'm going to be out, missing, 11 more games from a player, whereas Scotty B's been missing Foyce Acuna for the last month, so that's about 5 games as well. So I get it, but it's going to make it hard to keep my lead in that one, so we'll see what happens. Otherwise, we are nearing the halfway point of the season. This is week 6 after week 13, I think, is when we go to the playoffs. So, right, week 13, it's week 14, 15, 16? Or 14, 15, 16? No, it must be through 14 weeks. Yeah, because there's 14 members in the league, so it's through 14 weeks. So, after next week, we'll be at the halfway point. We can get a better picture for what it's looking like. Looking at the standings, I mean, there are clearly a couple of teams that are at the top that are real strong that will probably be, like Nick was talking, like he's already they're 5-1 with the number of points he scored. He probably only needs 2 more wins, and he's probably got a playoff spot locked up. Ethan and Lee both in really good spots. There's a couple of teams at 4-2, and then there's a mess of teams there's only 2 teams at 3-3 right now, actually. There's not a lot in the middle right now. It's a lot in the top and a lot in the bottom. Scotty B should be getting his first win this week because he's playing a really crappy team. Yeah, that'd be me. So, so we'll see how that goes, whether that actually happens or not. Otherwise, notable matchups this week. So me versus Scott, Derek or Drew.
That's not a notable matchup. That's just Scott and Josh getting their first win.
Yeah, thank you. So otherwise, it looks like Nick and Lee are playing. That's first versus third. That'll be a pretty good one to see what happens there. Otherwise, there's as well as there's that high level match. There's also the match to see who's going to drive each other closer to the deuce, which would be
all the 2 and 4 teams are playing each other.
That's these 2 right here. We got Chris is 2 and 4, and Derek's 1 and 5. So that's 12th versus 13th. And then where's the 2 and 4 teams?
Trent and Tom are playing each other, who are both 2 and 4.
Okay.
And then also Aaron and Will are playing each other, who are
both 4 and 2.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is not my third drink or anything.
All right. Well, do you have any other words of wisdom for the week?
Do better, everyone.
Do better. Yeah.
No, it was a good week, everyone.
I had a
doing
shitty
great.
week. I went 1 and 4 across my leagues. The only win that I got was against the last place team in the other league, and I put up like 160 points. So it was I beat the shit out of Wendy, which was funny, but I haven't done any smack talk to her. Maybe I'll link her this video and be like, "There's a spoiler for you right at the end." Otherwise, that's all I got. Good luck, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye, everyone.